Oh, I know that sound. It's time for the Beer and News Report. Hi, and welcome to the Beer and News Report. Cheers. Today I'm drinking Brute Apple. This is by the Hemley Apple Cider Corporation. I bought a variety pack of these ciders at Bevmo, and they seem to stick to the drier sides of ciders, which means that they're more tart than they are sweet. Now, I'm not a fan of tart ciders. Heads up, when it says Brute on the can, it's going to be a tart cider. I learned that one the hard way because there's a couple of these Brute ciders in the variety pack. Now, if you're into tart ciders, this is the one for you. It's very dry, it makes your mouth pucker. It also has a nice punch as the alcohol level is 6.9%. So, you should probably give it a try, right? Yeah, cheers. On my last show, I predicted that there would be an artificial womb in the next 10 years. Well, that sparked some interest among my viewers, and they want to know, hey, what else is going to happen in the next 10 years? And I thought, well, hey, that sounds like fun. All right, I'll take the challenge. So today, I'm going to pick 10 things that I think are going to happen in the next 10 years. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or if there's something else that you think I should have talked about. If I get enough people requesting that in, maybe I'll do another show just on what everyone else thinks is going to happen in the next 10 years. All right? Cheers. All right, number one, the artificial womb, right? In case you didn't see my show on abortion, which is the last show right before this one, I think in the next 10 years there will be an artificial womb, meaning that at any stage of the pregnancy, the fetus can be removed from the mother and put into this mechanical womb. Now, we've already got the foundation started because the fetus is viable, meaning that it can be born before the full term of pregnancy. Right now, it's viable at 24 weeks. Now, this is being in the process of being lowered to 22 weeks as technology and medications improve. 22 weeks, that's pretty much halfway there. That's the way technology happens. I think we can do this in 10 years. All right, number two, climate change. It's real and it's not going away. I predict we won't hit the numbers of the Paris Climate Accord that it's asking us to hit, right? I think the average temperatures are going to continue to rise along with the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That being said, I think that the US and the other developed countries will do their best to lower their carbon footprint, but it's just that China's footprint is going to continue to get larger, and in fact, all of the decreases that the other developed countries make, China will overtake them and increase it more than they decrease it. Now, why is that? Well, because China doesn't have very much of oil or natural gas, but it has a ton of coal. Now, they're trying to cut down on their reliance on oil and natural gas, so coal is pretty much their go-to power source. Yeah, I know they're building solar power plants and wind power plants more than any other country, and they're also doing nuclear, but all that combined, they're still going to add more coal to it. Coal is the quickest and easiest way to increase your electrical output. This alone was going to cause global warming to increase. Now, China has stated that they won't hit peak emissions until 2030, right? So pretty much my prediction on global warming is going to increase. And that reason that we got 10 more years to have increasing global warming. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that was an easy prediction. Cheers. Okay, number four, COVID becomes endemic and the government gives out a yearly vaccine booster, just like the flu shot. I mean, that's a pretty easy prediction. But I also predict that COVID stays in the current spot of being the number 3 killer of people behind heart disease and cancer. Now, why is that? The CDC says that less than 50% of the population gets the flu shot. I think it's safe to assume that the percentage will stay the same for the COVID booster, even if they mix it in with the flu shot. All right, so now 10 years down the road, maybe you turn 60 and you tell everyone, well, COVID's been around for 10 years and hasn't slowed me down. Why would I take the booster? Because when you turn 60, you are now at the high-risk stage. Most of the deaths from COVID have happened to people 60 and older. But you're saying, hey, when I turn 60, I'll take the shot. I highly doubt that. If you're not getting the shot now, what's going to change your mind in 10 years? If anything, you will solidify your stance against the shot. It has been my experience that the older one gets, it does not make that person more agreeable. If you don't believe me, complain to your grandmother or grandfather about how rough your life is right now. They're just going to rip you a new one explaining how life was when they were growing up. I bet you've already had that discussion. Cheers. Number 5. As I said in my show on EVs are coming, the electric vehicles are going to be dominant in car sales. Remember, I'm talking about worldwide sales, not just America. Europe and China see too much of their economy going to oil. They want to break from it so they are pushing for electric cars. As for the US, well, we do produce oil, so we will shift to the electric car, but it's not going to be as urgent as China and Europe. We'll eventually get there. All right, number 6, mobile money becomes dominant. Now, the days of carrying cash or even a credit card are coming to an end. Now, when I say mobile money, I'm not talking about cryptocurrency. I'm talking about Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, Venmo, Square, Zelle, all those financial apps that are out there. Now, China is already doing this. Almost all their sales are done with mobile money. Europe is following suit and they're ahead of America. And even if you look at the underdeveloped countries, like the whole continent of Africa, it's too risky to carry cash. But if you can have it on your cell phone, that's perfect. So what's up with America? Why are we holding back? Well, we love our credit cards, especially the ones that give us rewards, right? We all want our freebies. Yeah, been there, done that. Cheers. Number 7. Well, since I brought up cryptocurrency, I predict that it's not going away. Bitcoin and several other coins are here to stay, and I can even see Bitcoin breaking 100,000 within the next 10 years. I don't know when. I don't even know if it's hitting bottom right now, but it's already been accepted in business communities. There are even countries that have made Bitcoin their country's currency, so it's going to stay. Moving on. Number 8. Web conferencing apps like Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, and there's a bunch of others. They're going to be the future of meetings. Today's worker doesn't want to have to go into the office when they can work from home and just video conference in when they have to do a staff meeting. But this will also affect schools, and I'm talking more of the higher level education. Online education is booming, and now there's this thing called micro colleges. These are fast-paced colleges where they focus on a certain technology like web design or graphic arts, and you can complete the course in a month or two. And this breaks away from the traditional university approach where they want a well-rounded individual, so you have to take sciences and English and other studies to get your degree. These micro colleges are going to cut all that out, stick to one thing, and then in this case, they can drastically reduce the cost. All right, no more financial aid debt for me. Thank you very much. Number 9, computer programming will become the standard course, just like math, science, reading, and writing. This is something that is going to be considered a basic education. But isn't that happening already? Not really. See, if you make something mandatory, you have to provide the tools to complete this education, and not every school has the computers to do that, and that's where the holdup is. Hopefully, the federal government will pass a school upgrade bill and give money to schools to install computers. Maybe the infrastructure bill, I don't know. But here's a fun fact. When I was going to college in the 80s, the computer I learned programming on was a card reader. I hated it. Each line of code was printed out on these cards that had little holes punched in them. So if you dropped the cards or somehow got them mixed up, you were screwed. You had to start all over again. And debugging was hell. Luckily, I only had to use these computers for 1 year, and then the university dropped the card readers and upgraded to PCs. These were the green screen computers that booted up in DOS, but it's still better than those card readers. Yeah, cheers. And the final number 10 prediction that will happen over the next 10 years, the President of the United States will become more autocratic as Congress can't get anything done. Now, what does autocratic mean? Since Congress has a filibuster and you need to get a bipartisan majority to pass anything, most of the bills presented will never be passed. And this is because neither party will allow for any compromise. So the president, doesn't matter if they're Democrat, Republican, or even independent, they will have to use the executive order to get things done. By default, this makes him or her more autocratic. We've already seen this happen. But the problem is, the executive order isn't law. It can be removed by the next president. So President Obama does some executive orders, and then President Trump comes in, he removes them, puts in his own executive orders, and then President Biden comes in, removes President Trump's executive orders, and installs his own. You know, this is fine. They're not doing anything illegal, but it kills stability and makes America less reliable. Now, when does this happen? Well, look at the Paris Agreement on climate change. Obama signed on to it, but then Trump canceled it, but then Biden signed back onto it. This also happened with the Iran nuclear deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Even NATO was in the crosshairs. Now, this has other countries wondering how much they can trust the U.S. on long-term deals. And let's face it, if the stability of the U.S. goes, then the stability of the world goes. We already had a hint of this with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? Yeah, cheers. Now, I know what you were hoping for. What's going to happen with the January 6th committee regarding the attack on the Capitol building? And by the time this airs, the committee hearings will be all over, and we'll be waiting for the Department of Justice to make a decision. I predict that they're going to indict Trump because they don't want to set a precedent. Now, what do I mean? Well, let's do a quick review. In 2020, the election was the most watched election ever, so I doubt there was any election fraud, or very little that didn't matter. This was proven by the courts when President Trump sued for fraud, and the courts threw the cases out. Now, we've already seen a lot of the attackers who broke into the Capitol building. They've been arrested. But what's going to happen to Trump? The January 6th committee is stating that the elections were fair and Trump lost the election, but he isn't accepting it. And that's the precedent. All other elections have had a peaceful transfer of power except this one. Now, think of the consequences if the DOJ doesn't indict Trump. Basically means that you can disregard the results of any election and choose who you want to win. I mean, there's no way the Department of Justice is going to let that happen. So I predict that the DOJ will indict President Trump and bring charges against him. Now, does this mean that he'll go to jail? Based on past experience on how Trump gets away with anything, I don't think he'll go to jail. But the DOJ has to send a message out to everyone else out there that the results of the elections have to be accepted. If anyone tries to disregard it or tampers with the results, you have to pay a penalty. And basically, you have to follow the rule of law. And think about it. If the DOJ doesn't indict Trump and the Republicans get away with this, it won't be long before the Democrats start doing it too. And if that happens where nobody accepts the results of an election, we no longer have a government. And then the fall of America is going to happen. We can't let that happen. I don't believe the DOJ will let it happen. I think Trump's going to get indicted. All right. Cheers. Well, as you can see, my beer is almost empty. That means we're at the end of the show. If you want to contact me, reach out this email address. Let me know what you thought about these predictions and tell me what your predictions are. I hope you had a good time watching the show. And if you did, please click that like button. Of course, if you want to get notified of new shows, all you have to do is click that subscribe button and the little bell icon next to it. This will notify you when a new show's been posted. Until then, keep your beer cold and your interest hot. Cheers.